It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And of course, this is my favorite part of the show, wherein Tim reveals what his background is. And I'm not talking about his background that led him to have the tinfoil hat. I'm talking about the physical background right behind him there. And Tim,
it's your favorite part of the show because it's the beginning rather than the end.
Yeah, right. I kind of peter out. I'm kind of old right now. I'm flagging at the end, drooling. So I'm going to say that in honor of Don Lemon, which of course is today's top story. I mean, yeah, Tucker, who Don Lemon is, what I'm consumed with. You've got a lemonade stand because you're turning lemons into lemonade. Am I right about that? Let's take a look.
Pretty close. It is connected to Don Lemon.
Okay. And unemployment assistance for Don Lemon. Yeah, you don't.
And Tucker, what's his name?
Yeah, whatever his name is. Now you hear Tucker's going to go independent. He's going to get all kinds of viewers and stuff like that. I remember when Mike Royko moved from the Sun-Times. Before that, he was at the Daily News, and then he went to the Tribune. And it was just never the same. He was kind of like swallowed up by the grayness of the page. And there's something about, the feng shui or, whatever. Tucker was, it was the right moment for him and the right network. And, you go independent. It's just not the same anymore. But we'll talk more about him. Yeah, the big story, of course, is Don Lemon. And as Tim and I were conversing a little bit during the week, which, I don't know, it's getting a little cozy.
Well, it's kind of funny to me because Bruce, your story of Don Lemon, of course, is that his management says you got to do this, and he said nah.
Exactly, because the story is because he was at Channel 5 years before I got a chance to be there, and he turned down 2 assignments, my understanding, and I was just flabbergasted because, when I got there, I did anything, swept the floors, did traffic on TV. I mean, it's ridiculous. So,
this is at least 2 incidents. There's at least 2 incidents that I brought up where he went, nah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I mean, and is there such thing as black privilege? I'm not sure. Anyway, so we do have a clip, and he had that guy, who is it, Vivek Ramaswamy. The guy, as Charlie Cook says, he's not really running for president, but he's kind of an articulate guy and a great entrepreneur, and he gets into a little fight here with Don Lemon.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate. I'm not saying without me regarding you as a black man, but me regarding you as a fellow citizen. That's what I think we should say.
Whatever ethnicity you are explaining to me.
Whatever ethnicity I'm
to be black.
Whatever ethnicity
whatever you claim to be. I got intersectionality points over you, pal. Yeah, I'm black and gay. Okay.
Yeah, right. And where are you from? New Delhi.
My favorite part that this clip doesn't show is where he puts his finger to his ear and talks back to the producers and said, "Hey, I can't do that now. I'm setting this turkey straight."
Yeah, I love that. And that's really, he's not really talking to the producer. That's an old Bob Newhart routine where he pretends to be on the phone and he's talking about, so you're saying this gigantic gorilla is at the 50th floor of the Empire State Building right now? And nobody does Newhart better than Don Lemon. But I totally agree with Don Lemon because I too know what it's like to be black in America and have things explained to me. As you know, I think it was Maya Angelou who said that Shakespeare was a black woman, and Toni Morrison said that Clinton was our first black president. And I say, even though I don't have the poetic chops that either one of those have or the novelist chops, I was the Chicago's first black TV sportscaster in the news, at 9 or 10 o'clock news, because I had soul, and guys like Jim Rose were vanilla. But anyway,
Sure.
So I totally agree with Don Lemon. Let's switch gears just a little bit here. So, everybody's on the case of Fox, and we'll get into Tucker a little bit more in our segment, MAGA versus Rhino. Yeah. The nationally acclaimed segment. But Mia Farrow had a tweet, and it's we don't actually have to play the clip of Bob Costas. I didn't even listen to the clip. I just looked at him. Like any TV executive, they never actually listen to what anybody says on their audition tapes. They just look at them, and that's how they make their decisions. Because it's, and so you know that Bob Costas is going on and on about how bad Fox is, and Mia Farrow tweets Bob Costas today being precisely on target, and my reaction to that is Woody Allen must be torn because yeah, so that's my reaction to that. So let's go to so there's this guy Ted McClelland. Is he some kind of liberal? I think, but he tweeted a true story, Chicago story earlier this week. I was walking down Central Avenue in Austin, carrying an expensive laptop in a satchel. 3 black teenagers approached me on the sidewalk.
That's a nice way of saying immerse, I think.
And right. And they walked right past me without doing or saying a thing. And this is the guy who writes, the 312 Chicago magazine. So, he's trying to show, that we should not engage in the stereotypes. All I can say is that Jesse Jackson would have walked on the other side of the street. Remember the famous quote from Jesse Jackson, like in 1993, he was in Washington, D.C., and he said, yeah, if I saw a couple of black guys walking toward, I'd walk on the other side of the street. But you, Ted McClelland, you show your liberal chops by doing that. And speaking of not arresting anybody who hasn't done anything wrong,
how old was the laptop?
Exactly. Maybe it was Hunter's.
Maybe he purposely walked through the group of black big guys hoping that he could claim it on his insurance and get an upgrade.
Yeah. No. So Kim Fox has decided that she's not running again. I don't know did Soros run out of money? What happened? I assume we're going to get somebody just as bad as she was running, although you never know. Maybe a Vallis type, you think, will actually win the state's attorney's race, and then there'll be somebody at odds with the new mayor. I mean, I don't know how this is going to play out.
There's got to be something. There's got to be something. There's some undercurrent, something that we don't know, something that that she got the call and said, "Nah, you're done."
Really?
Yeah. Why else would she? Why else would she not run? What did she? She got bad polling numbers?
Well, I mean,
does that matter in Chicago?
Well, you'd think that on the heels of this victory by Brandon Johnson, that that now they just double down and reelect Kim Fox. I don't understand that. It seems like they got momentum going for them.
Yeah, I mean, she already survived the Juicy Smollett fiasco.
Yeah, right.
And it's not like it's not like there's actually a outcry against all the criminals being released. There's got to be something. There's got to be something that we don't know.
Because you're always seeing and sometimes you're right. Maybe this is the time you're right. So there's this Tribune reporter named Gregory Pratt, and he wrote about what Kim Fox had done, and and really had helped out with a new way of dealing with the criminal element, and it was all totally woke. And I've criticized them on Twitter saying, "Oh, great, it's the Tribune vulture capitalists can virtue signal by having this guy on there, but then they won't give him any money." And because they won't pay guys like this, he actually had a GoFundMe account because he had an estranged father who died. I mean, it's a terrible story, but he actually wanted to get some money for the wife of his estranged father, and he set up a GoFundMe account, and he got solicited and got donations from the people he covers in the news, like Kim Fox, who you see in this tweet here, he's praising the way that she does things, but he got money from Kim Fox. I mean, this is journalism ethics 101.
She's not running again, so what's the matter?
Oh, you don't take money from your sources. You don't do it. And it's funny because John Cass had a tweet about it, and and he's probably correct in his tweet. He was just ripping Kim Fox, ripping this Gregory Pratt, former colleague at the Tribune. And I actually tried to, I didn't know exactly what his tweet was referring to until I looked it up later, but I actually went to John's Twitter page and found out that I'm blocked by John Cass. So
what?
Well, who knows what I did. So, but it's good to see John. He had heart surgery recently. It's good to see that he's spirited. He's got the pith and vinegar going. And
so you're not just unfollowed; you're actually blocked.
I'm blocked. I'm blocked by John Cass.
Wow.
So I'm sure I'll find out about that. In the next life. But this Gregory Pratt, he comes out in favor. You saw that tweet before. The way that she. Oh, let's see. John Cass misspelling his name. This is a tweet by Gregory Pratt. Oh, it says that it says that Cass is a whiner. He may have misspelled his own website. Yeah, John does need an editor. Hey, Mike Royko didn't spell well either. I mean, John's a good writer. And Gregory Pratt could wish to be as good a writer as John Cass is, but yeah, spelling and neatness counts.
I didn't see how he spelled his name wrong though.
Not in his name, in his website, in the .com. He had just one S in it, so I don't think that's We don't really need to go over the spelling of a guy who blocked me on Twitter. So But anyway, this Pratt, I mean, he's got these Pollyannish solutions. Greg, why don't you go live on a kibbutz, with something that Israel abandoned decades ago? Yeah, go ahead and experiment. But and happy 75th anniversary to Israel. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
This just in to CNN. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. The right-wing network just announced the two have parted ways. CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy is here with more on this. What are you learning? He was out on Friday. Will we see him say goodbye?
We're not going to see him say goodbye. This is really stunning news coming from Fox. They say his last show was April 21st. They put out a very short statement. They said they thank him for his service, and that's it. That's all we know right now. But of course, this comes days after. Last week, you remember, Fox News settled this massive defamation lawsuit with Dominion voting systems.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And look, I don't know why Tucker got fired. I mean, the latest story.
Oh, I do.
Gabriel Sherman. Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Good. You
right.
Hear the latest
story.
Story.
It's time for our segment called MAGA versus Rhino. I'd like to debate the title of the segment, because how somebody who voted twice for Trump is a rhino, unless you're saying I need rhinoplasty.
And I didn't vote for him once. So
there you go. But anyway, this is all over about Tucker. And, go ahead. You started, so that I can, give my James Jackson Kilpatrick response, which is my whole reason for wanting to do this segment. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's my tinfoil. Here's my best tinfoil answer.
Okay.
We all remember. I don't think we're going to be talking about it, but 60 Minutes, the night before he was fired, 60 Minutes did a interview with Ray Epps, who, as you know, was a federal agent. And we'll just
I'm sorry, I should not laugh. That was
I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you to laugh.
Wait a minute. That's as bad as Al Gore when he was rolling his eyes up in his head during George Bush's statements during the debates in 2000. I should never do that. Save your laughter to the end, folks. Go ahead. I
paused for it. I paused for it. I said
so. They interviewed Ray Epps. Yeah,
they interviewed Ray Epps, right. And didn't really press him on any reason why he wasn't arrested or anything. My speculation is, remember, Tucker had access to 41,000 hours of footage, and all we've really seen of Ray Epps is stuff that was recorded on people's phones. So Tucker actually had good footage of Ray Epps in the they could have followed him through the through the whole protest. So my speculation, and if you remember, Tucker was he says, "Oh, we got lots more footage coming." He ran the he ran the Q shaman, and then said, "Oh, we got lots more coming this week," and he didn't. And the word was that Fox said, "No, that you're done. That's all you're running. You've caused enough trouble, Mr. Carlson." And so he went along with it. Probably.
And my suggestion is, these segments are only 12 minutes. If you filibuster long enough, I won't get a chance to respond. But go ahead.
Actually, I was stretching.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
So anyway, that's my speculation.
He
was going to run a Ray Epps segment with actual footage and address the questions that 60 Minutes did not.
Yeah. All right. Tim, you insolent slut. Pardon my Dan Aykroyd. I'm glad, this is basically a sotto voce or sub rosa, whatever, admission on your part that what Tucker came up with was absolutely bupkis. And that's a reason that he should be fired. I'm not saying it is the reason that he was fired, but he should be fired because after all the hoopla and everything like that, it was worse than Al Capone's vault. He ran 6 minutes or something like that at the end, carefully edited footage, and didn't say anything about the 54 minutes before that. And that is a reason that, if you have any journalistic ethics, Tucker Carlson should be fired in the absence of evidence that you are free to bring up at any time, and to prove that they put the clamps on the further evidence that they were going to have of Ray Epps singing Deutschland über alles or whatever he was doing, on the other tape. I don't think it actually exists, but and we can't really go further on that because I can't prove. You're doing what Tucker did often, which is you're making me try to disprove an unfalsifiable claim. So it's good. I like your imagination. Here's the thing with Tucker. The actual story is, which may be the truth, who knows? But it's Gabriel Sherman and Vanity Fair had been reporting about Rupert Murdoch, who just recently dumped his fiance, who apparently was a big Tucker fan. And it was kind of like biblical zealotry on her part. She believed like he was a savior, and she's very biblical. And Rupert, what's Rupert? He's a guy, dollars and cents guy.
He is the slot machine that's ready to hit at any moment. That's what he is.
Why would you not stand this stuff? And apparently at the Heritage Foundation's 50th anniversary dinner, 50th anniversary gala, and I think Tucker delivered the keynote speech at it in the weekend prior to him getting fired. Well, for one thing, he said, which I thought was funny, the more you tell the truth, the stronger you become. Yeah, sure, of course. Tucker is really like the Dr. Fauci of the right. He lied to his constituents for their own good. All right, I get that. But then he apparently at the Heritage Foundation said that he wanted to take a moment to pray because he felt, the country was going to hell in a handbasket. And, a lot of us agree with that, and a lot of us might agree with the prayer. Who doesn't like the idea of prayer and the Bible and zealotry and a fiance who talks that way? It's Logan Roy, Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, he didn't like it. So that is as plausible an explanation, and that may be a stretch.
So he would burn $1 billion just out of spite.
Well, no, it's not out of spite. It's just that he couldn't. You know what? There's other things too. Rupert Murdoch, John Podhoretz brought this up, a while back. He shut down that tabloid or whatever it was in Britain remember there was a phone scandal with this a number of years ago, and it was a profitable business, and he shut it down because he doesn't like legal problems. I don't really know what happened here. It could be an amalgam of a number of things. There's also this talk. If you read it, like the Wall Street Journal, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, and the New York Times even had a story, New York Times had a story yesterday, which made me want to sympathize with Tucker because it was like he said all these things in these Dominion found out all this stuff was redacted, for public consumption, but it was basically him swearing and talking about female executives. Using the C word for C-suite executives, which seems to me, and this is something that he that really ticked people off, and that's another reason for him getting fired. But who knows?
If it's the legal trouble, why is Hannity still there? Hannity, I think Tucker never really said anything about the being a bunch of crap, the election stuff. He's totally been taken out of context. Hannity, I believe, was actually saying literally that it was crap.
You know what? You know who it was? It was Lou Dobbs, whom they got rid of. There were like 19 instances that were brought up by Dominion. And like 12 of them came from Lou Dobbs, his schmuck who's on the weekends, and Maria Bartolomeo and her. Tucker.
Is she still there?
She's still there. Tucker, Hannity is just a dupe. He'll just sit there and listen to somebody. The problem, according to the court, and I'm not saying this would have stood up if this had ever gotten to the Supreme Court, is that there was no pushback whatsoever by the big names. And now Chris is telling me Lou Dobbs was the highest rated show on Fox Business. That's Fox Business, okay? It's not Fox, okay? So I mean, it's fine. It's Lou Dobbs. I mean, he's a nutcase too. So but Tucker is coy. I mean, Tucker would put the MyPillow Mike Lindell on and let him say, because people were trying to clamp down on his right to free speech. He would never say, I believe all your nutty theories, but he'd put Lindell on and high dudgeon. He'd be angry about this instead of saying what he really believed. And what he really believed are in the quotes that actually made it through, not even redacted, which was that Sidney Powell was, and this is a quote, was a lying effing bitch. Okay. Now, if Tucker Carlson had got on the air and said to Sidney Powell, instead of, we'll wait for your proof, we're waiting for your proof. No, you are. And if Laura Ingraham had done the same, I don't think you got a lawsuit. I think you got pushback from Fox there, but whatever. I mean, I'm not even saying it really would have, passed constitutional muster, or as Senator Johnson told me on 2 occasions on WLS radio, constitutional mustard, and he used to make me hungry when he talked to me. But yeah, it's Ron Johnson right north of us.
Well, you can't watch the sausage being made without the constitutional mustard, can you?
Well, and sausage is what Wisconsin is all about. So anyway, what else about Tucker here? Because I'm kind of plumb tuckered out. Talking about there's my friend.
He actually came out on Twitter and said see you guys soon, and there's an undercurrent that Tucker may be talking with Elon Musk right now about possibly using Twitter as his new platform, which would be really interesting. His little explanation of what had happened on Twitter got 11 million views as of this afternoon.
This is really bugs me because I've been on Twitter since like 2009, and I have tweeted like every 25 seconds since 2009.
No, I've noticed that.
And I got a few likes, stuff like that. Got some people blocking me, John Cass. But I know that Tucker's just going to come in and he's just going to take over Twitter. And that's actually a really good idea, and be kind of neat if he also did launch the whole thing in a spaceship that Elon Musk sends to Mars. Just think about that.
With an unscheduled rapid disassembly.
Yeah. By the way, Megyn, right. Megyn Kelly on her podcast was talking about how poorly Tucker's been treated, and she's been poorly treated. That they're doing character assassination on him right now and everything like that. And all I can think of is this broad got $30 million to bomb at NBC. So cut it out already. But very intelligent woman, very very nice woman. All right, Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children. As I often say, you teachers hold the kite strings to lift our national ambitions aloft. You really do. Just imagine if we didn't have great teachers in this country.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And, Mr. president, I mean, if everybody's child is everyone else's kid, I mean, could I abort yours? I mean, seriously, not seriously, but
Well,
it's kind of a corollary to Hillary Clinton's "It Takes a Village." Even though, of course, if Hillary had actually been talking about a village instead of the federal government, which is Leviathan,
I think she was actually talking
it's-
about satisfying her husband.
I would pay cover charge to hear that act. Okay,
Well,
yeah, I would, Tim.
Actually,
Yeah.
actually, it's kind of ironic because there's someone in his family who doesn't think that a child is his own.
No,
It's
no,
like,
he
no, that's
doesn't-
the stripper's kid. I've got nothing to do with that.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's somebody else's. It's the country's kid. Not the kid going welfare. And apparently this video that Biden released, which I don't bother watching those, but it sets the tenor for the campaign. The video is about how you've got to vote for him to protect democracy because
Freedom.
Trump is going to destroy democracy.
Freedom. That's what he said. It's freedom. It's all about freedom. It's the freedom to buy electric cars and new electric ranges and
right. That will impoverish you. No, it's
Sure.
It's freedom. Yeah. By federal mandate that you buy all these things. That's
and I think that's going to be
an
the
Orwellian formulation.
I think that's going to be the tagline coming into to 2024 because Pritzker the other day was he was asked what he thought about DeSantis coming to town, and he says, "Well, there's never been a governor that's been more opposed to freedom than Governor DeSantis."
Right.
So I think
It's their
freedom
buzzword.
is
That's nice because it's interesting because a libertarian like you sure likes Pritzker and
sure
Biden
shutting down
freedom.
businesses and closing churches. That's freedom.
Right.
That's freedom from disease.
And what is a greater freedom than to free students of their student loan obligations via extra constitutional means? We just sacrifice a little bit of democracy there. We have to sacrifice a little democracy with regard to abiding by immigration law.
Sacrifice a little democracy by imprisoning the front runner of the opposition party.
well, that's Alvin Bragg. It's funny about that because we know the Alvin Bragg case doesn't matter. I mean, that's probably going to get thrown out. Who knows? Maybe it'll get to a jury that'll convict Trump in Manhattan. But then there was the announcement this week by that Georgia prosecutor that she's not coming out with an indictment yet. It's not her turn yet. It's she's going to roll this out in a few months. Very suspicious.
Yeah,
maybe she doesn't have.
Gonna wait till something else embarrassing
so,
to the Democrats pops up in the news cycle. That's what she's holding that in.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of suspicious. That was suspicious. So, good luck to Joe Biden. But you even have like the New York Times. I believe they editorialized saying, "Boy, that's going to be pretty old. It's 86 by the end of your second term."
Well, I think it was Rahm Emanuel that said, "Never let a good indictment go to waste."
Sure. It's also Ari Emanuel who said that we should all be dead by the age of 75. That's long enough to live when he was selling the Affordable Care Act. So Biden will be, 11 years past that when his term ends. Speaking of old people, did you see Randy Weingarten, the teachers union honcho? She was on Capitol Hill, and after being asked when the teachers union first made contact with the CDC during the pandemic, she said, quote, "I'm 65 years old. I don't remember anything anymore," end quote. Well, okay, so we're going to have a president who's going to end his second term 11 years after your age right now. And I love the excuse. I'm too old to answer. It reminds me of my grandfather, was from the old country, and he'd get called in on these violations because he was a roofer, and there were some code violations. He'd get called in, and all of a sudden he doesn't speak the language any better than Sammy Sosa did when he was appearing before Congress on the steroid thing. And he's shuffling in and going, "Your Honor, Sir Gentleman, thus is thus." Wonderful. Randy Weingarten basically saying, I don't remember.
Well, in her defense, it's 65 years old. That's for a teacher, that's 15 years past retirement. So
you're right, exactly. As there's that nice boondoggle where they're collecting forever. Then there's a poll. The Wall Street Journal had a poll that said 41% favor a 6-week abortion ban, which is actually a pretty high number to favor that. You're still going to get wiped out in any kind of general election if abortion is a big issue, but that's a pretty high number for people to favor a 6-week ban, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, 6 weeks. I'm looking at that. That's I've been known to be engaged in prayer after 5 weeks. 6 weeks, 6 weeks, 6 weeks. Prayer answered. So I don't. Usually it's 6 weeks. It's like, well, is this for real? Is it? Well, I guess it's different now, where you can, in my day, you couldn't go to the drugstore and get one of those sticks to pee on. So
right,
it was
right, but yeah, it's still very early. I mean, realistically, if you have these 15-week bans, more than 90% of all abortions occur, before 15 weeks anyway. So it would be kind of an illusory ban, 15 weeks. But if you actually believe in, slowly rolling out things in the wake of the Dobbs decision, 15 would seem to be. I remember even Kevin Williamson, who's an ardent pro-lifer, was talking about Texas and Texas, going for a 15-week ban, I believe, and he agreed with that because it's just too hard for people to take. But meanwhile,
so it would go beyond
RFK.
It would go beyond 6 weeks in cases of incest.
No. This is what the Wall Street Journal poll said, that 41% favor a 6-week ban, which is pretty high number, but it's still overwhelmingly, against the 6-week ban. I mean, you would think that it would have been a lower number that would favor a 6-week ban. RFK had a quote this week. RFK Jr., by the way. RFK's last quote was, "And it's on to Chicago," and then that was it. Yeah. Ouch. By the way,
too soon, Bruce. Too soon.
I am recommending Eli Lake and Tevi Troy had a podcast all about Bobby Kennedy Sr. And it was great. I loved it. It was very enlightening about all his feuds with Hoffa and Lyndon Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover, and it was great. And I was chuckling while I was listening to this because they were so knowledgeable. And both these guys, Eli Lake and Tevi Troy, were born like in the 70s and had no personal experience with that. Whereas, me, I remember when Bobby Kennedy not only was assassinated, but before that, not the great. I mean, boy, that guy could dance around anything because he was the one. He was like at the head of the white people's the civil rights movement for blacks. He was the most prominent white he turned out to be, and this is a guy who authorized the bugging of Martin Luther King Jr. So that's a pretty neat shift that he made there.
Well,
but anyway,
I think it was him that said, "Teddy, you drive her home."
Exactly. Bobby supposedly wasn't they don't have any proof that he was the cheater that his brothers were. I mean, he was too busy impregnating Ethel. They only had 11 kids, one of which is RFK Jr. And, with 11 kids, like the McCaskies, you got to get somebody here who says a quote, like he said this past week, "Even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. The mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and hide. And none of us can hide as well." Yeah, I got to tell you something, RFK. I'm not a political consultant, but you got to be careful with the invocation of Anne Frank. You know, it kind of trivializes it a little bit.
I thought he was invocating Sound of Music.
Well, yeah, that would sure. Sound of Music is okay. Anne Frank, not. There was once a softball league in Chicago where they had to come up with outrageous team names. I'll never forget this. So one team called itself Anne Frank and Beans. And, you know, but I don't think anybody from that team was trying to run for president. Okay. So, you know, I get it. And you were supposed to be outrageous. So, you know, RFK, but, you know, apparently he's like got 19% in the polls right now, which is, you know, like 41% in favor of a 6-week abortion ban. That's a high enough number to rattle Joe Biden. So
it doesn't take much to rattle Joe Biden. I think you can rattle Joe Biden with raisins in his oatmeal.
Yeah, right. So I mean, this could very well be a threat to him. You know, and if he has to tug himself in RFK's direction, you know, the whole house of cards could come down. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. I'm not going to try and parse what we just heard there, Tim.
Magic moments.
You know, and Joe Biden, apparently she's prominent in this campaign video, you know, where he announces that he's running for president again. It's not like he's going to replace her, and the likelihood is that she's going to replace him, you know, in the year 2026.
Well, no, but that's why he's running with her. She's his 25th Amendment insurance policy.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. But I mean, he might not be able to make it, regardless of his protections. Yeah, that.
Did you see? The photographer got a picture of his notes that he took to the press conference. He actually has pictures of the reporter, their names, and the questions they're going to ask, and the response, all printed on like trading cards.
Oh, Biden, you mean? Yeah,
Biden did. Yeah.
Well, Biden didn't he get like the first question was he knew what the first question was going to be. I mean, hey, let's make it an open book exam. It's fine. I don't care.
No, they knew he knew the first one because that was the top of the deck. He had a whole stack of cards. I'm pretty sure there was one card for every question. They don't want him going off script.
Well, I
joke.
know. I'm looking forward to President Harris when she answers, no matter what the question is. It's like me when I used to have a final exam in college, and I just fill out in a blue book whatever answer I had come in with, and she's got one size fits all answers, because what she just said there could apply to anything she wanted to, because it applies to nothing. Chris has a theory. Yeah,
I do have a theory. All things, as we know, go back to Seinfeld, and I have a clip to play, which I believe she studied and uses when she prepares for speeches. If I could.
Hey, I'm doing what I do. You know, I've always said, I'm doing what I do. Got all these done. You got all these. What the hell are you talking about?
I think that's pretty spot on, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of another Seinfeld clip when Kramer is talking about, people writing things off, for business, and Seinfeld finally challenges him and says, "You don't know what a write-off is, do you?" And he says, "No, but they do, and they're doing it." So, yeah. Look, I give her credit. She's paid by the word. She's going to be fine. Turning to sports very quickly. I know you don't care whatsoever. Do you think Aaron Rodgers still owns the Chicago Bears, even though he's no longer in the Bears division, having gone to the New York Jets. Did you even know about that, Tim?
I knew about that, but no opinion.
Right. That's fine. I mean, you could give a Kamala answer if you wanted to. Here's another one.
So the
You're
Bears.
not watching Mrs. Maisel, are you?
Let's explain this to me. Why don't we do it this way? So Aaron Rodgers was with the Packers, right? And the Bears wanted him. Is that
yes, exactly. No. What happened was in a victory like the year before last, and he's had the Bears number for years. They could never beat him. And
got it.
And the year before last, he won a game in Soldier Field. It looked like the Bears had a chance to win that. He wins it, and he makes a gesture like and says, "I own you," to the city of Chicago.
Okay.
And you know what the thing was, he did own us, and he can, and you know he'll always own. I just wondered if he still owns the Bears even though he's no longer here.
You know, it's going to be embarrassing to lose to the Jets now.
Well, right, but the Jets, you know, actually could be pretty good. So
I am, by the way,
you don't
watching
watch Mrs.
Mrs. I am just Mrs. Maisel.
You are
actually, yeah.
Are you up to speed? I don't want to give.
I am not.
Away.
No. I am. What happened was we're in the final season of Peaky Blinders, and it's getting really boring. And Mrs. Schlegel slept through the last episode, so she has to rewatch it. So we said, okay, we can start on Mrs. Last night we said let's start on Mrs. Maisel, and my opinion. So I saw episod 1
of season 1.
No, of this season.
Of this season.
Of the new season. So episode 1.
Okay.
And my opinion on it, the dresses are better than they were last season. It's I thought the dresses last season were really lame, but it looked looked like they got their old costume designer, or at least someone who knew what they were doing back.
Wow. I mean, I'm not even watching it that carefully, but I mean, I love the series. It's not that big a giveaway. There's in the second episode, they have a 60 minutes report starting it out. Okay. And it's the Mike Wallace imitator, and it's done very nicely. They got the ticking stopwatch, and they got the Mike Wallace guy, and it even speaks in the Mike Wallace cadence, and knows when to pause, and they interview her, and it's all about everything that happened to her in the subsequent years. And I won't tell you, what that was about, but at one point they interview her daughter, which you saw in the first episode. She's on the psychiatrist's couch.
Right.
Daughter.
I saw that.
And the daughter says
that was confusing to me. That was confusing to me. I thought I had to go back and make sure that I had clicked on the right show.
I thought I was on Netflix by accident and not on Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
I said, "What is this?"
I thought it was
this is a modern thing.
I thought it was 13 Reasons or something like that.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, what are they doing? But if you saw the daughter, you know that she's crazy. She's like her mother a lot. You saw that in that scene, and
she's actually worse.
Even worse.
She's like her. Yeah, she's like her mother on 78.
Yeah, right. So in the second one, in the 60 Minutes interview, they actually have a clip of an interview with her, and she's pulling at her hair and saying things like, the most quotidian things, just like, "Oh yeah, I love my mother. She was a wonderful mother," and everything like that. All these untruths spilling out, but the platitudes that she had to deliver. And I was thinking to myself, well, this is great, because this is also a send up of 60 Minutes and their celebrity interviews, because they didn't get the truth out. The truth is that, and one of the things I love about Mrs. Maisel,
sir, this is 60 Minutes, sir. This is 60 Minutes, sir. We can't put unverified information on 60 Minutes, sir.
Sure. One thing I love about Mrs. Maisel is what a lovely. Oh, Chris is saying, yeah, they can't get the truth out, just like with Ray Epps. So yeah, great, right. So the thing
I was doing the Hunter laptop.
Oh yeah, well, sure. I know. I understand that. No, we could do a whole 60 Minutes in its entirety. This show, pardon my Pat Summerall, talking about all their flaws over the years. But the thing I like about Mrs. Maisel is that here she is, this funny, hysterical, tremendous comedian, but she is one lousy mother. Okay, and it's not idyllic. It's actually pretty horrible.
Uh-huh.
And you always say trust the tale, not the teller, because a lot of people would say, well, this is a woman. What was she like? Second wave feminism? I don't know. We know that fourth wave is Dylan Mulvaney, right? I've seen that joke, but there's prices that have to be paid, and you're not going to be everything to everyone. And it's nice to see that dramatized somehow. And it's a damn funny show. So glad you're back with Mrs. Maisel. Peaky Blinders is coming back too. Apparently, they got even more killing coming. I don't even know if anybody's left to mow down in that show. Right? It's unbelievable.
It should have stopped at season 5. So far season 6 is not thrilling me. So
okay. So
I always think a series should stop before it goes on so long that I wonder why I started watching it in the first place.
Yeah.
And
so far in Mrs. Maisel, I can tell you I'm through 4 episodes. I have not seen Arthur Fonzarelli jumping over a shark yet. So I don't even know if they get to that year.
This is it. They're wrapping it up.
I'm just saying, right. I know they're wrapping it up. I'm just wondering how far along it actually gets.
One of my comedian friends said, a lot of people complain about how unrealistic it is. I mean, she did kind of go from, open mic to stardom pretty darn quick.
Oh, okay.
Pretty darn quickly. So a lot of comedians are like, nah, that ain't real. It's like, is that the first thing that cued you in? And then somebody actually said, well, no, this episode starts out after she bombed a set, got so drunk that she passed out in a snowbank and lost toes. This is the most accurate depiction of comedy that I've ever watched.
Okay, there you go. But I mean, it's to me, maybe it's because they've stretched this out in real time, with the delays between the seasons, to actually come up with another season. It seems like it's been a long time that she's worked her way up, even though actually chronologically in Showtime, it's just
about a year, I think.
It's a couple of years. Maybe it's 3 or 4 years, maybe, but it's still not a lot. I mean, she wasn't playing gas stations for 5 years.
Here's how I tell comedians to look at Mrs. Maisel. It's her life story as told by a stand-up comic, because when a stand-up comic talks about their life, it's all exaggerated and ridiculous and in a caricature of what their life really is. So right. so like when she talks about her dad going on vacation, saying all the luggage was made to fit into the U-Haul, and he made a model of the U-Haul. That's how a stand-up comic would tell that story. Right. But in this, it's depicted as real, so it's kind of from that lens, and I find that interesting about the show.
And it's fun. And apparently it's got the comedic seal of approval. I mean, you're the expert. I mean, Joan Rivers not being available anymore.
The stand-up scenes aren't that bad. It's probably they're still awful. Actors can't do stand-up, but they're not that bad.
All right, next time we're going to get is Rachel Brosnahan a good stand-up comedian? Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.